From heroes with ridiculous powers to those with inferiority complexes,
I'm a superhero!
the Suicide Squad is full of bizarre characters. So let's rank them in terms of awkwardness and find out who's the weirdest of the bunch.
Yo, is this a dog?
What?
Number 8, Bloodsport. Idris Elba doesn't tend to play awkward characters. From Luther to Hobbs and Shaw, he's all about picking projects that make him look like a badass. But he's also up for poking fun at himself from time to time, and Bloodsport allows him to do that. Granted, he's a foul-mouthed ass-kicker who you'd want in your corner during a fight, unless that fight involves rodents anyway.
Don't calm down with the rats.
What?
I have a thing with rats.
You have a thing with rats?
Yes.
The Suicide Squad depicts Bloodsport as a wisecracking anti-hero who turns into a scaredy cat whenever he's around rats. Here's a guy who put the mighty Superman in hospital, but he can't handle some tiny furballs that live in the sewers.
This is Sebastian. Say hello, Sebastian.
I'm not shaking the rat's hand.
Now that's one awkward superhero. Then again, at least he doesn't hang out in his underwear, which brings us to our next awkward rascal. Number 7, Peacemaker. Let's face it, Peacemaker's a jerk. But he's an awkward one who's also hilarious thanks to John Cena's wonderful performance. Whether he's showing off his awkward dance skills or walking around the jungle in his tidy whities, you have to give Peacemaker credit for being unabashedly himself. He's also socially inept, which is clear during his exchanges with Bloodsport. Peacemaker is always determined to one-up his colleague when it comes to showing off his skills, yet he can't comprehend the fact that he's annoying and no one likes him. Of course, social awkwardness doesn't excuse his misdemeanors. Let's not forget that Peacemaker is a jingoistic psychopath who doesn't understand just how evil he really is. Fortunately, there are some members of the team who are nice. Number 6, Ratcatcher 2. If Ratcatcher 2's existence proves anything, it's that being awkward is a good thing. She might find solace and comfort in befriending rodents, but that's opened her mind up to a world of possibilities.
This city isn't ours. This city is theirs.
There's an argument to be made that Ratcatcher 2 is naive and too forgiving. But if it wasn't for her, King Shark would probably be tossed aside like yesterday's news. Plus, a giant star monster would probably have destroyed the world. Ratcatcher isn't one to judge a book by its cover, and it enables her to relate to her fellow outcasts and help them fulfill their potential. She should be an inspiration to all of us. That said, some superheroes are hopeless beyond repair. Number 5, the Detachable Kid. The Suicide Squad's entire ensemble is weird and awkward to some degree, but the Detachable Kid is next level ridiculous. In fact, there's a case to be made that he's the most pointless superhero of all time. Don't believe me? Check out his only superpower. Bringing detachable limbs to a gunfight is questionable. That said, it's also strange that he's called the Detachable Kid when he's clearly a middle-aged man. This kid has some issues to work through, but there's no denying that he's unique. Speaking of original weirdos. Number 4, Weasel. Say what you will about the Suicide Squad team, but at least they don't back down from a fight. At the same time, some of them are so frickin' awkward that they can't even make it to said fight in one piece. Take Weasel, for example.
Yo, is this a dog?
What?
Is this thing a dog?
This cross-eyed critter has a criminal history that makes him seem like the type of loose cannon you want to take into battle. But he's so lousy that he seemingly gets killed off en route to battle, and this came after an introduction that saw him licking a glass window and acting the fool. That being said, the Suicide Squad doesn't present any of its animal characters as intelligent beings. Number 3, King Shark. Few things are more awkward than trying to eat your friends.
Hungry!
However, not everyone has an appetite that's as big as King Shark's, so you can understand why he wants to munch on everyone he crosses paths with. But why does this great white crave human flesh? Well, he's an anthropomorphic shark for a start. That definitely plays a part. But if you dig deeper into his psyche, you'll see a lonely fish that craves friendship and acceptance. Maybe he eats people to fill the void that grows inside him, having spent his entire life being ostracized and shunned by society?
I know friends.
I have no friends.
It's not just his murderous appetite that makes King Shark such an awkward fellow, though. He's also completely unaware of what's happening most of the time. While the other members of the Suicide Squad debate how to survive and overcome their predicaments, King Shark is more interested in pointing out how he has limbs.
Yes, that is your hand. Very good.
We're all gonna die.
He isn't the brightest guy in the room by any means, but that's what makes him so lovable. Number 2. Harley Quinn. Most of us have been on first dates that are super awkward. They're even worse when you think you've met the man of your dreams and he turns out to be a despicable South American dictator. If you or I found ourselves in this situation, though, we'd probably just make up an excuse to leave and then block them on Tinder afterwards. Harley Quinn doesn't play that way, though. She's more likely to murder her South American dictator boyfriend as soon as he starts showing red flags.
They don't just go away quietly. They slash your tires and they kill your dogs.
The Suicide Squad once again shows how Harley tends to look for love in all the wrong places only for it to end in disaster. That's awkward in its own right, but some of her more general characteristics are just as weird. Harley just floats through the movie, embarking on flower-filled murderous rampages without a care in the world. She also has a tendency to forget everyone's name and refer to them as Milton, which creates some awkward exchanges. Hooking up with psychopaths and seeing flowers everywhere is one thing, but forgetting people's names is even worse. Still, Harley is the most socially capable person in the world compared to this next guy. So without further ado, let's find out who's the most awkward, superpowered being in the Suicide Squad. Number 1. Polka-Dot Man. Here's a guy who's the personification of awkwardness, but he was always gonna be that way.
Hey, Polka-Dot Man, I was hoping you'd entertain my kid's birthday party. You f***ing pussy!
Imagine growing up knowing that you were an unwanted child who was only good for experimenting on. That's always bound to lead to feelings of existential despair. Polka-Dot Man has some serious issues with his mother, and it makes him an awkward buzzkill to be around at the best of times. I mean, here's a guy whose superpower is emitting polka dots and being ridiculed as a result. His social skills ain't much better either. He keeps talking about how he wishes he was dead for Pete's sake. Granted, it's understandable why he feels that way, but talk about a sourpuss, right? Still, Polka-Dot Man is a useful ally in a fight. As soon as he pictures his mother's face on giant monsters and bad guys, he turns into a real asset. In the end, Polka-Dot Man's awkwardness becomes his greatest strength, and he's given the most heroic arc in the entire movie. Just don't expect him to be fun at parties. If you liked this video, be sure to check out our feature on the strict rules that the Suicide Squad cast must follow.